is brought to you by Head Start Basketball.
We want to make sure they're Rob shots. So we call them Rob shots, not because my name is Rob. They're range, rhythm, they're open, and they're balanced. It's like, it just so happens that my name is Rob Summers. And I was like, man, it's going to look like crazy because I'm calling these things Rob shots and my name is Rob Summers. But it's Rob with 2 R's. So can we shoot Rob over non-Rob shots? So we want to be within range. We want to have a great rhythm to it. We want to be open with our shots, and we want to be on balance.
Rob Summers is in his first season as the head men's basketball coach at Cleveland State University. He also spent the 2019 through 2022 seasons with Cleveland State as an assistant coach, where he helped CSU win the Horizon League and make its first NCAA Tournament appearance since 2009. CSU advanced to the postseason twice during Rob's first stint with the Vikings. Most recently, Summers joined former Cleveland State head coach Dennis Gates' staff at the University of Missouri for the 2024-25 season, where he served as the team's offensive coordinator. Prior to joining the Tigers, Summers spent 2 seasons at Miami of Ohio as the associate head coach, where he helped the program achieve its highest Mid-American Conference finish in 10 seasons. Summers also served as an assistant coach at James Madison, 3 years as the head coach of Division II Urbana, and 2 years at Glenville State as an associate head coach. As a player, Summers played 2 seasons at Penn State before transferring to West Virginia, where he helped the Mountaineers reach the Sweet 16 in the NCAA Tournament as a junior and win an NIT championship as a senior. He then played professionally in Europe, Asia, Africa, and South America. Hey, Hoopheads, imagine having your team's entire development, training, and analytics in one place. That's the Dr. Dish Training Management System, TMS, the ultimate coaching platform that transforms your shooting machine into a complete player development engine. Track every rep, drill, and player. Assign custom workouts, use shooting maps, leaderboards, and progress across your entire roster, all in one dashboard. Build accountability, unlock smarter reps, and take full control of your team's growth. Feed your fire at drdishbasketball.com.
Hi, this is Jalen Archer, men's basketball coordinator for video and camp operations at Southern Miss, and you're listening to the Hoop Heads podcast.
Coaches, you've got a game plan for your team, but do you have one for your money? That's where Wealth for Coaches comes in. Each week, we'll deliver simple, no-fluff financial tips made just for coaches. Whether you're getting paid for camps, training sessions, or a full season, Wealth for Coaches helps you track it, save it, and grow it. It's time to stop guessing and start building. Subscribe now at wealthforcoaches.beehive.com/subscribe and follow us on Twitter at Wealth for Coaches for daily money wins. Your money needs a coach. Start with Wealth for Coaches. Grab your notebook before you listen to this episode with Rob Summers, head men's basketball coach at Cleveland State University. Hello and welcome to the Hoopheads podcast. It's Mike Klinzing here without my co-host Jason Sunkel tonight, but I am pleased to be joined for the second time, Rob Summers, men's basketball head coach at Cleveland State University. Rob, welcome back to the Hoopheads pod.
Thanks for having me back, Mike. I'm excited to be back in a different role now, so it's good to be back with you.
Absolutely. The last time Rob and I talked, he was still at Cleveland State, but he was in an assistant coaching role. And that was, I guess, 3 seasons ago or 3.5 years ago. And since then, Rob's made a couple of stops at Miami of Ohio as an assistant coach and then at Missouri with Coach Dennis Gates. So just give us a quick update on those 2 experiences that you had, and then we'll dive into what led you to come back and return to Cleveland State as the head coach.
Well, I was at Cleveland State from 19 to 22, and, we won 3 championships in 3 years. So, I loved being on your podcast back then, when we got that program off the ground and applied for the job, wanted the head coaching job when I was here. I was always told, if you win games, you're going to get the job, and kind of won myself out of a job, I think. So I was in the transfer portal, a source from a coaching standpoint. My third born, my daughter was going to be born right when I found out I didn't get the Cleveland State job the first time around when Coach G-Rob got it. So I had my daughter here, had an opportunity to go out with Coach Gates out to Missouri that season, and just didn't feel right for my family to leave at that point in time, the state of Ohio, and go 8.5 hours away. So Was blessed to get a call from Coach Steele down at the Miami University in Ohio. He had just got the job there probably a couple of days before. We had obviously lost his Xavier team that year when I was here at Cleveland State. And he was like, you know what? I need associate head coach, Rob. I love what the office you guys ran up there. I love everything you're about. Like, come down here. Let's talk a little bit more. And we just kind of really, really hit it off. And we both knew it felt right for both of us for me to take the opportunity with him. So I was blessed to go down there, be closer to my in-laws. My mother-in-law, father-in-law were about 20 minutes from where we lived at down there outside of Cincinnati area. So it was perfect for us. And, did a great job, being around and learning from Coach Steele and building that program with him, from the ground floor up. And obviously, they've been doing great things. They missed out on a MAC championship last year, but they're, obviously returned a lot of guys. So they got a great team coming back. So Coach Steele's going to do great down there. Didn't want to leave him, though. I was there for 2 years, saw that program increased. And Coach Gates had called me after my second year there and was kind of like, hey, what would you think about coming out here to the University of Missouri, and helping me out, running my offense again. And I was like, Coach, I really like where I'm at now. I really enjoy being with Coach Steele, to be honest. And I wouldn't have left Coach Steele for anyone else other than Coach Gates. So when I talked to Coach Steele, I was like, look, Coach, he wants me to come back with them. They had lost, we had lost every SEC game the year before. So I was either going to be a smart person or a crazy guy. It was either going to be a genius or I was going to be like, who does that? So glad that it turned out the latter. And, I'm glad I was able to go and be a genius up there a little bit. And we had some great players that helped us win some games. And it was awesome. It was a great experience for me, just being back with Coach Gates and being in his culture and seeing and learning in the SEC and being in a buzzsaw of a league for a season. I've been a mid-major, assistant, for most of my career, coaching Division II basketball as well. So to see it done at a high level, and also see success at a high level, I love the offensive side of the ball. So really wanted to see if with my offensive game of what I brought as offensive coordinator would work at that level, and was glad to see that it did. So it showed me a little bit about my development as a coach myself. So I was there that last year. And when Coach Robinson got the North Texas job, got a call from my AD here, Kelsey Gorey-Harkey, asking me if I'd be interested in the job. And again, no brainer for me. I wouldn't have left the University of Missouri for anything other than Cleveland State head coaching job. I came in an interview and talked to Dr. Bloomberg, and they were like, well, what happened if you don't get the job? I said, well, I'll just go back to the University of Missouri. We got a great team coming back. We're going to be good again. I was like, I'm around some friends and some family, and my wife and Coach Gates' wife, we were really close, and our kids were close, and it was a great situation for us. But obviously, to come back to somewhere where I really learned how to grow as a coach at Cleveland State and come back to a program that is a winning program and be the leader of that and CEO was just something I couldn't pass up.
During that interview process, what were some of the questions that you had for Cleveland State in terms of, obviously you have familiarity with the program, right? Having been here and been here relatively recently. Some guys come back and it's been 10 years since they've been out of place, and then they come back. You were here, within three seasons ago. And so what questions did you want to ask them? Clearly they're going through and asking you questions, but I always think it's interesting to kind of flip that around and think about what questions did you want to ask them in terms of what you thought needed to be in place in order for you to build the kind of program that you want to have?
I just want to know the expectations. Obviously I wanted to know what they expected from a head coach. And, I knew Kelsey, when she was assistant AD under Scott Garrett. So I knew what type of person she was, but also wanted to know what she expected from her head coach and how did they want to go about building, and continue to build, the program, because the program's a winning program. It's not a job that you're going into where, it's a rebuild, and they hadn't won in a while. So when we got here with Coach Gates in 2019, it was a rebuild. We had 2 guys on the program and they hadn't won since Norris Cole was here. So obviously what Coach D-Rob did here over the last 3 years was phenomenal. 20 wins per season for 3 seasons. It's something that I would only be blessed to have accomplished for myself. So I really want to know what they were expecting out of the head coach. What type of program did they want to see him run? And the way they talked about, just being a transformational program and not being transactional, obviously in a day and age of NIL, we know that that's the thing that we have to adapt to. But they don't want it to just all be transactional. They want to be transformative with their relationships with the student athletes. They want a coach that's going to be involved in the city, a coach that really loves what Cleveland has to offer and what the state of Ohio has to offer. And that was for me. I said, I'm the guy. I said, this is home for me. The state of Ohio, I know it. Cleveland obviously has been somewhere that's been very, very special to me. Me having my family down the road, me having my wife's family down the road too as well. It's just a perfect setup for me. But I really wanted to see what their expectations were and kind of what they wanted to see from their program, because Dr. Bloomberg is doing a great job of implementing a lot of great things here at Cleveland State and making sure that we're the best version of ourselves as a university and not trying to be somebody we're not. We know what type of university we are. We're a community campus. We're not trying to be Ohio State. We're not going to have 40,000 students come through here. But can we give you a great degree, give you a great experience, and bring some student athletes that want to stay around the city of Cleveland and help continue to build this city of what it's known to be.
What would you say going into the job back when you first take it are the strengths of the program? What are 2-3 things that when you look at it, irrespective of whether Rob Summers is the head coach or not, what are the strengths of the program in and of itself, just in terms of the university, the location, the facility? What are the things that you really like about the program, again, before you start putting your stamp on it at all?
Yeah. Obviously, Cleveland State's a winning program now. For 6 years, 5-6 years now, it's stone to win. You're expected to be at the top of the Rising League. So to go in somewhere that's attractive, right? You have championship residue on your program. Winners win, and I think that's what Cleveland State does. So to go into a program like that, obviously, is something that was very, very attractive for me, and also just the city of Cleveland and just Northeast Ohio. Very, very underrated. We used to tell recruits all the time when I was here with Coach Gates, it's like, look, whatever you think you know about Cleveland, like, forget about it. Like, forget about what your perceptions of what Cleveland area is. Once you get here, you're going to experience how great it is, especially in the summertime. So we get them in the summertime. Like, Cleveland summers are like my favorite time of the year. Right now it's getting a little cold and it's windy out and rainy a little bit, but I like that. I'm a Midwest guy. But in the summertime, obviously the weather's great. You're right on the lake. It's a sports town. People love their sports. And that's one thing about Cleveland that you see and you experience, and people want to see you do well. They want to get out. They want to support. But those things are just so attractive about it. Just the people. People make the place. Cleveland State has always had great people around it, and we continue to add add those same caliber of people too as well. And again, having familiar faces, but also some new faces too. When I came back here and took the job, was just a very, very special situation for me.
Beyond winning, what do you think you can do to continue to capture the hearts and minds of Cleveland sports fans? Obviously, the first thing is you got to put a winning product on the court. But beyond that, what are the plans to continue to draw people into the program, to get people invested and draw out the support from the Cleveland area of basketball fans?
I think you have to play an exciting brand of basketball. You have to put people in seats, and people want to watch a product that's very exciting to watch. We talk about the offensive side of the ball because that's where, I've came from being an offensive coordinator, is you want to play fast. We want to bring that SEC type of feel to the Horizon League, just because, again, we're entertainers. And I think that a lot of people forget that basketball is entertainment, because it's about winning and all those things like that and the discipline. But it's like people want to go to the movies and they want to go watch a good movie. And I think we're actors in a movie that doesn't have a script. And you never know what's going to happen. So that's for people on the edge of their seats, and that's what March Madness is about, and that's why you love the buzzer beaters and all those things that go along with college athletics, especially men's basketball. So being able to play an exciting brand of basketball, but also to bring in student athletes, from the area that know Cleveland, that know Ohio, and also even student athletes from outside of the area, going out and extending my recruiting reach to Florida and the Carolinas, and then have them ingrain themselves in what Cleveland is. I think that's the biggest thing for our program is we want to be in the community. We want people to know Cleveland State basketball as these young men are, not just from on the court standpoint of winning games, because again, that's the standard. The standard is to win games. But can we be, in the community, have a community outreach, giving back, and be those focal points around the city, because we are an urban campus. There's a lot of underprivileged youth around the area, and we want to make sure that we're giving back, because a lot of the stuff that we strive to accomplish is not just going to be on the court. And I think that's the smallest piece of it. I tell my guys all the time, I said, look, man, I'll skip a practice to go help out at a soup kitchen. Like we'll skip practice and we'll go help out at the Special Olympics. Like it's me setting ball screens. You guys setting ball screens for an hour and a half isn't going to get anything done as much as it'd be going and reading at an elementary school down the street. So I'm a little unorthodox when it comes to those things, but I think just ingraining ourselves in the community is just a huge thing for me.
That circles back to what you said off the top, right? In terms of what the administration was looking for, transformational coaching and not transactional, and that getting out in the community and serving and being a part of it. It's really what it's all about, right? Is being able to use basketball to be able to have an impact, first of all, on your players that are part of your program. But then secondly, if you can take that and multiply it out into the community, then you're really talking about transformational. So when you get the job, tell me a little bit about putting together your staff. What was that process like? Who were the first calls you made? Just what's your philosophy on putting together a great staff, and how quickly were you able to get that to come together?
I mean, one thing that Coach Gates always taught me is always have a staff in place, always have a team in place for any level job you could possibly get. So he's like, look, if you got the job at Ole Miss tomorrow, like who would your staff be? If you got the job at Chicago State tomorrow, you just got to think about where you're going to be at next and who would you recruit, and have a black book full of those names. And obviously, with me seeing how Coach Robinson's success was continuing here at Cleveland State, I knew it could be a possibility that he would get something higher. They won like 13 games in a row. So I was like, man, they won 13 games in a row. Someone's going to come knocking at his door. So if I get the opportunity, who would I hire in there? And I think I put together a great staff. I love my team. I love the players that when I get out of the portal. But when you talk about a staff, I think I have a bunch of future head coaches and former head coaches on my staff right now. I call my former teammate, Frank Young, who was at App State as associate head coach at App State, obviously with Coach Kearns down there. Wanted permission first from Coach Kearns because I needed Frank. I trust Frank. I know what he's about. I know his character. I know how good of a recruiter he is. I know how good of a coach he is. I know that it's only a short period of time before he's going to get his opportunity to move a tier over and be able to call those timeouts. So bringing him on board first and foremost was huge for me. I knew I was going to bring DeLon King with me from the University of Missouri, a Cleveland State graduate, somebody who really helped me on the offensive side of the basketball. He's huge in analytics, very, very bright, very smart, just really is a future star in the game. He's been around Coach Gates and the culture that we have from that tree for 6-7 years now. So he understood what I would need from him. So I asked for Coach Gates' blessing, right away. He was like, well, who are you going to try to steal from me? I know you're going to try to take somebody. And when I brought up DeLon's name, he said, you know what? I'm going to bless that. Anybody else, I wouldn't let him leave for it. He's like, anybody else can't have him. He's like, I'm going to let you have him. So to bring him in was great. Like being a bright young man, called Mike Hunter, who was the junior college coach at Lakeland Community College while I was here at Cleveland State. And then was a head coach at Shawnee State down there in Portsmouth, Ohio. So obviously have another head coach who's won a lot of games at the junior college realms, somebody who's great with post-development, and bringing him on board again. That's a high character guy, huge for me. When they called Lou, actually didn't think Lou Rowe. Lou Rowe was at University of Oregon, and I remember talking to him, and it's like, Coach, I think I'm going to get this job. Because we just, I worked for Coach Rowe when I was at James Madison. He gave me a great opportunity there, and I told him, I was going to take this Cleveland State job, and I said, I got to bring a former Division I head coach. I need a guy who's been in my seat, who knows the stresses from what a mid-major Division I head coach is going to experience. So I was talking with him about, if he knew anybody or whatever, and next thing you know, he's like, rah, what about me? And I said, Coach, you're not going to leave University of Oregon. You're not going to leave Oregon to come to Cleveland State. Coach, I can't afford you. I told him, I said, I can't afford you. He said, man, it's not about the money for me. He said, I've made enough money. He's, played pro for 15 years and made a lot of money and been coaching for a long, long time. So he's like, it's not about the money for me. He's like, it's about being around, and helping people that, that I love and that I want to support. He's like, if you want me to be there, he's like, I'll be there. So was blessed to get him on board. I really didn't think I was going to have a shot at getting him. I was looking at more, maybe somebody who's out of the business at the time, and the former head coach. But so to bring him on, again, huge for me. Great recruiter, great man, knows the defensive side of the ball like the back of his hand. So he was great. And, we got blessed to keep Danny Karliak from Coach Robinson. Had a couple people in mind for what I was going to do with my director of operations job. But Danny said, he's a Cleveland guy. He's born and raised in Cleveland, loves Cleveland. He's got Browns tickets, Guards tickets, Cavs tickets. He's got a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame season pass. He's got the fast pass at Cedar Point. He's got anything in Ohio. So he's been great for me, and keeping him around, and then rounding my staff out with Casey Perrin, who's assistant down at Louisiana Lafayette, and we just got let go, but a huge player development guy, a guy who came highly recommended from a guy, Christian Smith, I know from down in Miami, Ohio. He said, look, Rob, I know what type of man you are. you're a faith-based man, you're a family-based man. He's like, Casey is that. He's a guy he's got a little one on the way. Him and his wife been married for a couple of years now. He's a star. He works his butt off, and he's just a good person. And that's one thing I really wanted to make sure. I wanted guys that could be on different sides of basketball from offense and defense, but I really wanted to focus in on the character piece. I wanted these young men to see just great people around them, because they can sniff it out. Like these college athletes know when a guy's not about the right things. And when you have guys that are great fathers, great husbands, these players are just going to be more inclined to be like, okay, I understand, coach. Like you want the best for me because you're living the right way. And that's one thing that I really want to make sure I check the box on. And I really did with the staff. I'm very, very excited about them.
Well, and you're going to spend a lot of time with them, right? So you want to have dudes that you like sitting in the locker rooms, like sitting in the coach's office with, and having those conversations. Because you got guys that aren't good, high character guys. That doesn't bode well for your staff and just the camaraderie that you guys have. Because again, we all know how much time we're spending together.
Yeah, no, definitely.
All right, so you get your staff in place. Next piece is putting together the roster. So go walk us through what that process was like. And as you're doing that, talk a little bit about just in general how recruiting has changed for you over the course of your career. Obviously, NIL, the portal have made a huge difference in how teams and rosters are built in college basketball today. So as a first-time Division I head coach building your own program, you hadn't done it at the Division I level under the old system. So this is the only system that you know to put together this roster for the first time. So just walk us through what that process was like after you got the job.
It was a whirlwind. It was wild. It was like I was drinking out of a fire hose for a solid month and a half. It just, I'm telling you, the amount of sleep the amount of food I ate, I don't think I ate for probably 3 weeks. I had the Lion King here. He was like, bring me food in my office. Like, coach, you haven't ate today. And I'm like, man, like it's like 2 a.m. And I'm like, oh, okay, let me just get a bite. And then I would go back to my hotel because I was living out of a hotel for a while and just get a couple hours of sleep and then back in the office again. So, it was good that I had that black book of names, that I knew that at a mid-major level and previous, I wanted relationships I had with players before. I didn't want to just kind of go in cold calling a bunch of guys that I didn't know, other than watching film and seeing their stats. So to be able to go in and sign the guys that I signed, I was very, very excited because I knew them before. You look at a guy like Foster Wonders, who was at Green Bay. I lost out on him when I was the first time around here at Cleveland State. Had been on a bunch of calls with him. His parents wanted to see him, and he went to Southern Illinois and told us no. So, ended up going to Green Bay. And obviously, when he hopped in the portal again for his last year, I said, you know what, I can't miss out twice, Foster, because I think that he fits exactly how you want to play. We want to get a lot of threes up. We're going to shoot a lot of threes. We're going to play very, very fast. We want to play in transition, and I think he could provide kind of similar to what Caleb Grill provided us last year at Missouri. So adding him, going on getting to Josiah Harris, bringing JoJo back, back to the Cleveland area. I know he's Richmond Heights guy, family splits time in Canton, all those things like that. But, he's a Cleveland, Northeast Ohio guy. So to get JoJo back here was huge for me. Excited about him. Signed a guy, Kamari Jones from Indianapolis, who I had a relationship with him when he was when I was at Miami of Ohio. We recruited him a bunch, and then he went to Western Carolina and he was going to go junior college. But I said, look, man, I got faith in you. I think you got a bright future ahead of you. It's going to take some time for you to develop, but you can come in here and you can work. And that was great for us. And then signing a guy like Dean Nessa, a guy from Switzerland who's played U19 basketball, averaged, I think about it, is like 18, 9 and 5 during those U19, and he had 22 and 17 against France. At 6'7", he's got pro build to him. So to bring a guy like him, and I flew over to Switzerland to see with his parents. I was like, look, we got to have him. And so again, it was a whirlwind of just putting together these different pieces of what we needed, because again, we wanted to play fast, we want to be deep, we wanted to make sure we get the right guys in character-wise, but we wanted to still be old too as well. And I didn't want to go out and get a bunch of freshmen, especially at that point in time in April, because the landscape's changed. You used to bring freshmen in and develop them for 2-3 years, and by year 3, you're like, all right, let's win. Like, this is the time to win. now it's a win now. It's a win now standpoint because everyone's going to go out and they're going to get older guys, and it's just hard to compete with when you have freshmen out there. You saw from us here the first time at Cleveland State, we went out, we got old, and we won fast.
Yeah, there's no doubt that the college basketball landscape has shifted towards the portal and upperclassmen and bringing those guys in that can contribute right away. And then the challenge with that, right, becomes building your team both on the floor from a basketball standpoint and learning what your players are good at. Obviously, when you're recruiting them, you have some idea of the type of players that they are, but when you get them on the floor and you actually get to see them and you start to piece together, hey, this guy meshes well with this guy, or this combination seems to work. So there's the basketball side of it, but then there's also just the building a team, right? Building a cohesive unit, a group of guys that plays for each other, that fights for each other. And so obviously once you get coaching staff in place, which we talked about, roster in place, which we talked about, then it becomes about how do you build a team both on the basketball court and get to know the strengths and weaknesses of your guys. And obviously you have a style of what you have in mind, how you want to play, but you got to adjust that a little bit for your personnel and what guys can do and combinations. And then you also have the piece of building a cohesive team that is together, and you got to do that in a short period of time. Tell me about that process, what you and your coaching staff talked about in terms of what you're doing with your guys in the summertime.
Well, the first thing we did as a staff is we had a coaching retreat. I got on my staff. I finally got everybody here around May and said, "Look, we need 3 days, man. I need 3 days. We're going to rent a Airbnb, and we got to hash out everything that we're going to do, and try to do, and then see what we want to stick with, see what we kind of need to change." So got there and kind of showed them how I wanted to play offensively, and kind of handed the reins over to Coach King and Coach Young and said, "Look, you guys got the offensive side of the ball, but obviously we still want to play the same way we played in Mizzou, with playing with fast, with pace, and also playing out of like a lot of our split cuts, a lot of NBA style reads with it and transition." And then defensively, handing that over to Coach Rowe, Coach Hunter, and telling them like, "Look, I want to be disruptive. I want to be tough. I want to be physical out there on the floor." And then let them kind of take the reins from it. Really didn't want to micromanage guys on a lot of things. So that was the biggest thing for me is like, hey, look, this is the standard of what I want. These are some things I'm comfortable with. Obviously, if you guys have ideas, you're like, "Coach, I think this will really work for us." Look at the roster that we put together and watch their film from their junior colleges to their schools they've been at, and tell me what should work with this group. And it's been good. It's been good so far. I think that going to the summertime, kind of establishing that pace with our guys was important. We didn't have Dean Nessa with us. We didn't have Ivan Spiroff. They both were overseas still. So we were down 2 of our players that, are going to play some big minutes for us this year. But the other 13 guys really got a lot of great reps in it and learning each other. And that's what we spent a lot of our summer and even the fall up at this point. It's been what we call our Viking DNA segment of our season, where we learn ourselves, we learn our teammates, and we learn our system. So again, we split our season up in 4 different seasons. Next, we're moving on to commit to compete. And then we go preseason, we go our first non-con, we go to conference, then we go to our playoffs where we're in the Horizon League tournament, NCAA tournament. And I think that's a great way to split it up because the year can become redundant and long. I think, back when I was coming up, in the summertime, you just had open gym and you did some weights, and the coaches really couldn't talk to you until you came back in the fall. And then you still didn't have much going on then. And then October 15th came around, and then you're doing all the practices. But now it's like you're practicing all year long. So I really didn't want my guys to hear my voice every day. So really this summer, I let my assistants run every practice. Every practice that we had, my assistants ran it. I'd chime in here or there, but I would sit on the sideline. I'd make calls to recruits. I'd drink my coffee. I'd chime in where I needed to be. But it was a lot of just allowing them to be head coaches in their own right. Because that's what I hired them for. I hired them to coach basketball. I didn't hire them to sit around and listen to me, get on a soapbox and talk. So that was huge for us. And just, with 15 new guys, you said it's always tough, right? When you got new guys, period. When you got 15 new guys, so nobody knows me, nobody knows anybody on the team. Those first 2 weeks, we didn't do any basketball. It was all team building. It was all, bringing sports psychologists in, letting these guys tell their story of where they came from, the things they've seen that they didn't like, the things they saw that they liked, just really getting to know each other, because we had to kind of fast track that as opposed to, previously with, teams when I was at West Virginia, you got 3-4 years with each guy. So, you got 3 years to continue to learn and see, what their mom's name is. Do they have any siblings? Like, you got to find that stuff out now in 8 months, because 8 months from now, you want to retain guys, but you're going to have at least 50%. You're trying to reconstruct 50% of your roster. It's just the nature of the beast now. And it's just changed so much in the last, like I said, I've been coaching now for 16 years, and it's like night and day. So I can only imagine how some of these older coaches who've been doing it for 30 plus years are feeling like this is unbelievable.
Talk to me about the NIL piece of it and how that plays into getting guys to come to Cleveland State, but just in the general basketball landscape, how does that play into it, your role as a head coach, and how you have to manage that piece of it in order to be able to manage your roster?
I mean, it's very important. It's some people don't like it. Obviously, me being a former student athlete myself, I would love to have some NIL. I don't even need that much. I just wanted enough to go get extra supersize my value meal. I just wanted enough to put some gas in my car. I mess with my guys all the time now. I got loans.
It's crazy. Like, honestly, to me, like I remember Rob being so excited over Christmas break that we would get my last 2 years, I'm living in an apartment. And so you get your meal money over Christmas break, right? They'd give me like $300. I'm like,
yeah.
And I think I can get by with 150. I remember those 2 years when I was a junior and a senior, like I bought myself a pair of shoes with my extra meal money over a Christmas break. And then, you look at some of the dollar figures that some guys are getting now, and I'm like, holy cow, man! Like I can't believe it. So just trying to navigate that and manage it, I'm sure as a head coach, what's it like, man? I mean, it's just
yeah.
I have a really hard time even wrapping my head around it.
Yeah, it's difficult, because the kids, they want something, and I understand that they want to be, compensated somewhat. My thing of it is, and how I view NIL, especially at the level I'm at now, is more as a retention factor. I think that, some, guys make their NIL money, but I really want to use it as a way to retain student athletes. I want students to want to stay at Cleveland State. I don't want guys who are returning to feel like, well, you're not valuing me the same way you value, a brand new guy coming through our program. Now, does that change? I don't know, but I know that right now, that's where I really want to focus on, that retention piece of it. Because you have to adapt. You don't want to be stuck with the Blockbuster card when Netflix is out. And I think a lot of people are like, well, I don't subscribe to it. And I've told people, they're like, well, I don't really agree with it. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. You don't have to necessarily agree with what it is, but understanding that it's here is something that we have to continue to adapt to, and give the right guys the right NIL money. You'll feel good about investing in these young men. But I've came from the SEC where the numbers were out of this world. So when you're in the Horizon League, you're not looking at these,
right.
Knowing the Horizon League is make it 1.5 and make it 1.7. So you look at a guy, but if a guy can come in somewhere and be able to, have a car, be able to have a car payment, and be able to, invest some money and little money in Robinhood, and then get their DoorDash orders so you'll pay for, it's understandable. But again, I think that the biggest thing for us at Cleveland State is we don't want it just to be the only reason. I told guys, like if you just want a money deal, I'm not the guy for you. If you're just thinking about this is about NIL. I was like, now again, NIL is a piece of it, but if this is what it's going to be, I know I'll end that conversation right away, especially with agents and parents who want to be agents and student athletes. Because if the first thing you ask me about is a number, then you're not really worried about who Coach Summers is. And it doesn't matter what I tell you about me and my faith and my journey, you're looking to make some money, which again, understandable. But I don't want that to be the piece of the puzzle that's just like, it's so focused in on, because these young men don't understand. And I saw it at the SEC level. Once you get paid that first check, you forget about the money. You really do. It's more about your relationship with your staff. You're not worried about it. I used to mess with my guys all the time. All their cars are better than mine. Like everybody on our team had a better car than mine. Like I got 3 kids, so I'd pull in the parking lot like, man, I got the worst of the bunch. I got the worst of the bunch here. But they knew that. They knew that we cared about them. They knew that we cared about them, and that was the biggest piece.
Yeah, I do think that ultimately, right, what you're looking for as an athlete, sure, the money is new, the money's exciting, everybody wants to get a piece of that, but ultimately, you're still looking for a great experience. And part of that great experience is the relationship that you build with your coaching staff. And when that's in place, it just allows everything else, I think, to click in so that you can, A, have a great experience individually as a player in a program, but then also, if all those positive relationship pieces are there between an individual player and the coaching staff, that translates to the whole team. And when you have that kind of cohesion, and then you can all start pushing for that same goal and going in the right direction and trying to get the program doing what it's supposed to do. When you have, as you said, those relationships, which are so important. You talked a little bit earlier just about trying to make sure that in the summertime, guys don't hear your voice and get sick of it because they're hearing it from you. Basically, again, guys now at the Division I level, totally different from when you played or when I played, where, again, you just went your own way in the summertime and you did your thing and you came back on campus and then you got yourself ready for October 15th. Now programs are going year round. How do you make sure, beyond just you kind of taking a step back from being the voice during the summertime, how do you make sure that you're not wearing guys down to the point where by the time you get to the conference schedule in January, your team's tired because they've been going at it so hard? Is that something that you think about? And in the programs that you've been in, how have they approached that? And then how did you approach that this summer to make sure you're not beating your team up so that they're physically still at their best come January?
Yeah, that's definitely something I noticed, especially last year at Mizzou. Coach Gates has always done a great job of letting his assistants, run stuff and run practices. He let me run practices at Mizzou all the time to really help with those guys in there. And when they hear his voice, they knew they need to listen because it wasn't a voice that was just coming in every day, all day, and just became, just part of like this background noise to them. So seeing that from him, and then also understand this a long season, right? So even though, coach lets us run, it's just a long year. These guys are, if you're looking to make it to the NCAA tournament, you're looking at an 8-month season, a 9-month season. Like it's just a lot of time to be out there playing college basketball in a row, seeing the same people. So how can you keep it fresh? How can you take your days and make your days count and not really, spend, those 4 hours that you get allotted from the NCAA with just 3 hours of practice, hours of weights. Like running your program like an NBA program, I think is the biggest thing that, I've learned from Coach Gates is run like a pro program. Have your lockout days, have days where guys can't come in. Like, because guys are going to want to come in and get in the gym, right? You got to help protect them from themselves sometimes because guys want to get a lot of extra shots up. And some guys, you're a heavy minute guy. You don't need to be coming in, putting more wear and tear on your body when it's an off day. So having those NBA lockout type of days where guys aren't even allowed in the gym, like, hey, you're not allowed in here. Like, go decompress. Like, be at the house. Go to get your extra study hall. Get your tutoring in. But this is not time to come in and still try to get up your 500 shots because you want to be a pro, which I respect. But you have to be able to help protect them from themselves sometimes. And I think that that's a big thing that I learned from Coach. And obviously I've been implemented here at Cleveland State because we have a lot of guys who are gym rats and they want to be in the gym. But they just don't understand that their body's like treads, like tire treads. You don't know how much tire tread you have on each of these guys' bodies. My tire tread lasted me till I was 25, 26, and my back said no more. So I don't, who knows? And I still have teammates that I play with that are 40 years old still playing overseas. So they got better tread than I do. So I think that's the biggest thing for us, and just keeping it fresh, man. Allowing these guys, to coach themselves on the floor. Sometimes, a lot of times with our training, we allow them to self-correct. We don't want to give them every answer to the test. So during drills, we'll allow them to coach themselves. Like, all right, no coaches are talking for this. Like, this is what the drill pertains to. We're going small-sided games. This is how we're scoring it. Coach yourselves. Coaches, we're out of this. And it just allows themselves to hear their own voices and not just hear, because staffs these days are gigantic, right? We got a big staff here at Cleveland State. At Mizzou, we had about 40 guys on staff. It's changed a lot, right? Since restrictive earnings, where they had assistant coaches who couldn't make over a certain amount of money now. But I think the biggest thing for us is how fresh can we keep these guys, and how can we not just every day just be basketball. And that goes back to the community service part about it. It goes back to like, hey man, I will miss practice to go do community service any day of the week. You can ask my players that. Guys will miss to go, hey, community service day. Hey, we're not practicing today. We're going to East Cleveland. Same can be said for guys grades slip a little bit. Hey, we'll shut it down. Like I use an old Coach Carter saying where he's like, you thought it was bad when we knew you were failing Spanish. Now the whole world knows you're failing Spanish. So I want to make sure these guys, anytime, and again, we got great academic guys. So, but I don't think we have a kid on our team that should be getting C's. Like we have two smart kids that when their grades start dropping to C's, we have a long, hard discussion because I recruited high academic, high character kids. So that's one thing that, people commended me on, and we're going to hold those guys accountable to that.
How has it been with the pacing in the fall in your preseason practices, making sure that you're getting everything in, coming off the summer and getting prepared for that first game again as a first-time head coach at the Division I level, just making sure that you get your pace of practice down where you're getting everything in that you want to have in by game one? How has that pacing gone for you guys this fall?
One thing that I took from Coach Beeline, just kind of like learning under him as a player, then obviously going and sitting and watching his practice at Michigan when I was at Urbana, was just like having a matrix of like stuff you want to get put in the weekly, and just like having a checklist almost of checking things off and like what's important to you. Is your press break important to you? Is implementing your zone important to you? And then having that checklist and understanding like, hey, you got to adapt. You got to adapt. In some weeks, you got to spend a little bit longer on ball screen coverages than you wanted to. And then also combining that with Coach Gates and him telling me like, Rob, you can't catch every raindrop. If you want to catch every raindrop out here on the basketball court, you're going to be sorely mistaken. So what can our program be good at? And then continue to adapt as the year goes along. So I don't want to move on from something if we don't have it done right. I just don't want to check a box of like, okay, well, we got this. We got baseline out of bounds defense, and like, all right, next week we're working on this. Like next week, all right, now we got if it's not done right, I'll stay with it, and then I'll want to just adapt as we go on. So one big thing I wanted to get was our transition offense and our flow offense in, and I wanted to make sure that was what we were really, really good at. Do we have a bunch of sets put in right now? Probably not. We probably have about 6 or 7 sets that we have from our season. But we know how to play in transition. We know how to flow into our secondary, and we know how to flow into our offense and our splits and our open alignment. And guys know how to play in a game, and they can come out and they can play fast, and they can play a way that Cleveland State's going to play this year.
How do you design your practices? And I'm thinking about this question in 2 different ways. One, what's your process for planning a practice? Are you looking at the previous day's practice, sitting down in your office at your computer by yourself, putting together the practice plan and then sharing it with assistants? Are you guys doing it collectively as a group? So what's the process for putting together a practice? And then number 2, what are those practices? What does a practice plan look like? Do you keep it the same every day? Do you like to go defense first and then offense and then special teams? Do you have a flow? Do you have a certain type of some favorite drills that you say these are part of our practice every day? Just A, how do you put together a practice? And then B, how does that practice look day to day?
Yeah, well, I used to, as a head coach when I was at Urbana, I would just come with a practice plan. I would hand to my assistants about an hour before practice and say, hey, look, I need you to run this drill or help me with this one, but I'm going to run it all. So this is what it looks like. Just know, then they would help out and whatnot. But I really learned a lot being here with, again, I know I talk about Coach Gates a lot, but he's had a huge impact on my career just from a standpoint of being able to think outside the box and ways that I didn't think as how college coaching went. And when we were here at Cleveland State, me and Ryan Sharbaugh, our defensive coordinator, we would do every practice plan. Me and him would sit down in the office every day after practice, and we'd be like, all right, what do we want to do tomorrow? And we did it because Coach Gates was like, where's the practice? I remember the first day of practice, he's like, where's the practice plan at? And we were like, every school I've been at, it was the head coach would hand me a practice plan. So I'm like, what are you talking about? Where's the practice plan at? I was like, don't you come up with it? And he was like, what am I paying you guys for? I paid you to come here and coach. And from that day on, he really, empowered our staff to like do that. And me and Coach Sharbaugh would sit down and we would come up with a practice plan. And And we would hand it, we would give it to him that night, and we say, Coach, this is what we came up with. And he would kind of tinker it and move some things around what he thought we needed to work on and what he wanted to see from a practice standpoint. And it was perfect for us. It really worked well. And it's something that I brought here back to Cleveland State with me because we were doing the same thing at Mizzou last year. As an offensive coordinator, I had my 45 to 50 minutes of the practice that I was allowed to have. And I always knew I wanted to get some small-sided games in. I wanted to get some execution in stuff, transition. And I'm a simple coach. I don't, I love the CLA stuff. It's because that's how John Beilein is, that constraint-led approach. I love having different games like that. The CLA is just a new term that everyone's moving and using. But that's something that I've just had since, this is 2004. We're at West Virginia doing CLA stuff, so we're bringing small-sided games and we're scoring it differently. If you get a back cut, you get extra 5 points. Scoring off the split screen with a curl cut is worth 3. It's all those things that now everyone's finding attractive, but we've been doing that for a long, long time. So, seeing with my practice planning, I love to start off, just beginning practice, just getting guys loose. I always love to stretch guys. I know that some people don't like stretching. They don't like watching their guys stretch, but they don't stretch on their own. So I always make sure that they stretch. Like, give me 5 minutes to stretch it. Just because I hate when guys get into practice, like, I'm not loose. And I'm like, dude, you're supposed to get loose before practice. But my staff does a good job, though. Our guys will get in early and they'll work out. They'll work out. They'll get shots up. So they'll have a good sweat going on before we get into practice. But we always will stretch. We'll get in. We'll get shots up. We always start with a passing drill. I'm big on passing. We always talk about throwing strikes, not balls, with our passing angles. So always do a lot of do some passing drills to start off us, and then we go right to defense. I give my defense there a lot of amount of time, and they're allowed to fight for their time. And I tell them, some days that if they don't get the drills they want to get in, I said, fight for your time. If you guys as defensive coordinators want us to be good defensively, fight for your time in a practice plan. These are things that you want to work on. Obviously, I'll talk about it from a head coaching standpoint and say, well, I don't want to do this today. I want to move this to tomorrow. And then I give my offensive their 45 minutes of practice as well. They come in, they have on the practice plan, they want to work on this, and, this and that. And I look at it and I say, well, let's change this drill up. Let's score this drill differently. But I think it just really gives them a stake in the company, I think, and I think that's what you want to have as an assistant. You want to have a stake in the company. You don't want to be just a worker somewhere. And if you got the stock options and you got stock in this company and you want the company to do well, as opposed to someone who's just coming in to work every day like, well, the boss is going to make the rules. He's going to do everything he wants to do. I'm just going to come in. I'm going to collect a paycheck. And just learning under Coach Gates and learning how to, empower your assistants really made me feel like I wanted our offense to be I wanted our offense to be the best in the country every year. When I was at Cleveland State, when I was at Missouri, I wanted us to be the best offensive team in the country. I want to be the best team in the country, but also selfishly, I know that he put me in charge of something. So I want to be great at it. And I think my staff here does the same thing. When they're in charge of special teams, they want to have their baseline out of bounds going great. So I tell them, fight for their time. Fight for that baseline out of bounds time. Make sure you get 5 minutes of baseline out of bounds offense in. Make sure you get 10 minutes. If it's a big day, hey coach, we haven't did it in a while. Let's get 20 minutes. I need baseline out of bounds for 20 minutes. Just give me a segment. Okay, let's knock it out. And I kind of like to be fluid with my practice planning. If I feel like there's something that I really wanted to focus on that we didn't get in the day before, I'll double back to it. But now we're getting into the grind of things. So it's going to be a lot of, scout-based learning for us, to be honest. So whether we're talking about ball screen coverages or split screen coverages, just the things we do, how's the team that we're going against, how they're going to guard it, and everything around that practice will be adapted based upon that.
Easy or hard to delegate? I know it's the right thing to do, but as a guy whose name is ultimately attached to the one loss record in the program, do you find it psychologically easy to just say, hey, you guys take this? Or is that something that still, even though it's the right thing, is it still a little bit difficult to hand it to somebody else when you think, man, I could do it not necessarily better, but it's not exactly the way that you would do it? Is it still hard psychologically or no?
I think at times it is, but I also have to catch myself because I know that I used to be such a micromanager before because I was like, I could just do it. I could do it right my way. And as a head coach, I'm getting pulled in so many different directions from the amount of meetings that I have. Trust me, I didn't know I was going to have this many meetings and this many lunches and breakfast, coffees, and driving over here. And if Coach Gates tried to warn me, he said, man, look, you want to be a head coach? It's going to be a lot less basketball than you think, brother. And I'm truly learning that. So it's tough at times, but I always catch myself because I know what it felt like working sometimes with head coaches that didn't allow you to do things that you wanted to do, and feeling like I wasn't as involved as I wanted to be. So with my staff I have now, and again, that's why I brought guys on that I trust. I think that sometimes it's hard when you don't trust. If you start not being able to delegate things, it just shows that lack of trust you have in your staff. And I truly trust these guys. I trust these guys want me to win as much as I want myself to win. Because again, at the end of the day, I know that my name's on it. All these wins and losses go on my Wikipedia page and everything along those lines. But also, everybody's contracts are tied to my contract too. So if they let me go, I don't know how many people are going to keep left over. So we'll see.
All right. As you said, you're coming up on the regular season, and that comes a time when you start scouting opponents. How do you like to scout? What does that look like? What are the things that you're looking for in a scouting report that are important to you as a head coach that you want to make sure that and your staff has a handle on, and then what you share with the players? So just walk me through your philosophy on scouting and what that looks like for Cleveland State.
Yeah, so we do it, kind of similar to. I'm not a big football guy, so I can't really tell you, but I'm assuming this is how football teams do it. But so I have my two defensive coordinators, so Coach Hunter and Coach Rowe, my defensive side of the ball. Coach King and Coach Young are on my offensive side of the ball, and then Coach Perrin is my player development, and he does a lot of things along those lines with special teams. So with Coach Rowe and Coach Hunter, I allow them to watch the other team's offense. They split up game by game. So, let's say we got Loyola coming up. Coach Rowe have them. We play Capital, I believe, the next game after that. So Coach Hunter, and they'll just go game after game. So they just stay on the defensive side of the game, and they just watch all that offense up to that side point, and then they'll meet. They'll talk about how we want to guard this. They'll talk about different sets they run. Are they heavy in transition? How are we going to guard the transition side? Do we want to throw zone at them? What are those things going to happen? Then they come together with a plan. And then they'll present to me 2 days out from game day +2. So game day +2 in the morning, we'll meet at 6 a.m. The staff, they'll present, all right, coach, this is what they run. This is how we want to guard it. We'll talk 30, 40 minutes of that. Boom. From there, we move on to the offensive side of the game. We'll talk with Coach Young or Coach King. They'll talk about, all right, this is how they're guarding ball screens. This is what I think what actions we can do to attack them. These are guys susceptible to being able to be a matchup for us, so we can try to target these guys on the offensive end for us, and then they just stay on the offensive side of the ball. So those two they'll never touch anything defensively. They'll probably won't watch a rep of the other team's offense until they get to the game day, to be honest. And then Coach Perrin and will watch every every personnel clip, and he will present on every personnel for the season. So every game, he'll know exactly what their players are good at, and be able to give that information to our players at a high level. And I really like that part about it, because it really lets you focus in on one side of it and what your specialty is. I've been parts of programs that do it like each season takes a game. So, you'll have this game, and the next season have that game, and the next season have that game. So you kind of just go in a row. And I believe, if your specialty in a program is like, hey, you're on the offensive side of the ball, are you really going to be that great on the defensive side of the ball? Maybe you're okay. Maybe you're all right. But I don't think you're going to be doing it at a high level. So for us to have 3 different guys working on the game and being able to watch, that segment at a high level and be able to communicate that to the staff and to the players at a high level, I think it just takes, some people think it puts more on your plate because you got every other game you're doing is scout. But I think it takes a lot off your plate, because you don't really have to worry about as much. All right, this is what this guy does at a high level. Like, that Casey knows that. He could tell all the players that. He could talk to the team about that stuff. Boom. And the same thing could be said from the offense. Like, they're a huge horns team. They love to run horns action and this and it's that. Now you talk about offense. So you're just pulling yourself in so many different directions from a scouting standpoint. That I believe that if you divide that up amongst your staff members in a way that really mimics what I would assume a football program looks like, I think it helps. It helps you at a high level. And I'm not big on bombarding guys with stuff with from a scouting standpoint. We're front and back of a sheet. We got personnel on the back where you got the top 8, 9, 10 guys, and in the front we have our offensive keys, defensive keys. We have some of their sets drawn up, some of the key stats that we need to have, some of the things that we need to execute on defensive end, some of the things we need to execute on offensive end, because they have short attention spans. It just is what it is. I have a short attention span, so I don't blame these guys. If I handed them a packet of like 12 pages of a scouting report, they're not going to read it, and I'm just going to be more frustrated at myself if I start asking them questions from page 10 that they didn't read. So to keep it short and concise, and also really make it about us as well. We always say that we're our own biggest opponent, and we just competed ourselves at a high level. So for me, that's the biggest thing.
You had to pick one area of the scouting report to share with your team. Would it be the personnel side, or would it be the X's and O's action side? Which one do you think is more important for the players to digest and really take into account as they're going into the game, if you had to pick one?
Personnel. I think personnel, I think it's key. I've always said that. I've gone over to the side. Coach Starbaugh, our defensive coordinator in Mizzou, would always like disagree with me at first about those things. So he was like, well, I was like, it's all personnel. It's nothing to do with plays. Like, you got to know some stuff that they run, man. And I was like, it's all about personnel. Like, but again, I think that it's a good combination of both. But if I was really to lock in and tell guys like, hey, we need to focus in on this piece about it, I think it's 100%. You need to know what guys do. Maybe I may forget that on this cross screen play, this guy's coming off another pin down. But what I'm not going to forget is that my guy's a lefty and he loves to go one drill pull up to his right. And if he's going left, he's shot faking downhill.
It requires a lot less thinking, right, as a player, because it's something that you've done. If you're a good player, it's something that you've done probably since you started playing the game, is understanding what the guy you're playing against is all about. And maybe there wasn't a scouting report when you were in 8th grade, but 5 minutes into the game, you figured out kind of what your guy liked to do. And so that's something that, right, as a player, that stuff translates much easier than, as you said, hey, we're getting this weak side action, or the ball's going to swing here and then they're going to pin down. That stuff, if you can process that, great. But ultimately, like you said, you want to know, if my guy catches the ball, is he going to rise up and shoot a three, or is he a guy that I can be a little bit laid out, or get a short closeout or a long closeout and still be able to stop him? I think that stuff translates to players, like you said, much better than some of that X's and O's stuff that, again, in the heat of the moment, you're much more likely, as you said, to remember a guy's going to go left and pull up, as opposed to all the off-ball actions and things you got to guard. And hopefully over the course of practice, right, as you said, if they know your principles of how you want to play offensively and defensively, that stuff's going to kind of just, I don't want to say happen naturally, but they've drilled on it. They've worked on it in practice so much that the personnel stuff, I think, is what's going to flash into a player's mind in the heat of the battle, so to speak. Tell me about analytics and what's important to you when you start looking at what drives winning for your teams. I don't want you to give away all your secrets, but give me one thing or two things. Don't give me everything. I don't want it all, but just give me an idea of what's important. What are some things that are important to you, whether it's something that you like to track in practice, whether it's something that over the course of time as an assistant that you feel like really drives winning for the teams that you coach.
Well, a couple of things, without giving you all the secret sauce, we really want to track our time past half. We want to play fast. So we definitely want to track our time past half. That's how fast the ball, we call it TPH. How fast can we get that ball past the half court? And obviously, the fastest way to do it is through a pass. So we want to take the ball out of bounds fast. We want to get the ball inbounded fast. And we want to get the ball past half fast. So we track that and we stat that, we want to be around 2.7 for the game on average. So that's one thing that's huge for us. And also a big thing for us is our shot chart and kind of how we categorize our shots. We have what we call gold medal, silver medal, and bronze medal shots. Our gold medal shots are everything that's in around the rim and catch and shoot threes. We've adapted the catch and shoot. We used to just be around the rim and free throws, but I want to do catch and shoot threes because I believe that with us wanting to shoot threes, we want to put that in a gold medal standpoint. Any silver medal shots for us are off the bounce shots. So anything that's off the bounce from a 3-point standpoint is a silver medal. And then bronze is anything that's non-paint twos. So all those mid-range pull-ups and everything that guys, everyone wants to shoot them because they're like, oh, I can shoot him. The percentages show that they're a bad shot. You much rather be shooting 31% from three as opposed to shooting 35 from mid-range pull-ups. So we stat those. We want to make sure that we're shooting around 78% of our shots that come from gold medal standpoint, which is one thing that we've always stated. And we want to make sure that they're Rob shots. So we call them Rob shots, not because my name is Rob, but actually Coach Klein at Mizzou brought this. I was like, why did you call them Rob? He's like, well, they're range, rhythm, they're open, and they're balanced. It's like, it just so happens that my name is Rob Summers. And I was like, man, it's going to look like crazy because I'm calling these things Rob shots and my name is Rob Summers. But it's Rob with 2 R's. So can we shoot more? Can we shoot Rob over non-Rob shots? So we want to be within range. We want to have a great rhythm to it. We want to be open with our shots, and we want to be on balance. Like now non-Rob, we're out there just shooting a bunch of threes that are outside of our range, that aren't in rhythm, that aren't open. You're off balance. Like those are gold medal shots that we don't want to take. So I think sometimes guys think, well, it's a gold medal shot. I was at the rim. Well, are you on balance? Like, are you like it's in a rhythm? Yeah, obviously it's in your range. You're at the rim, but you're not open. You're double teamed there. So can you play off 2 feet? And can we fight for Rob shots? And that's one big thing that we stat, and we want to make sure that we analytically do that at a high level.
Does that have to be a more verbal discussion during the early days of practice as you're getting your team familiar with that? And then I would assume as the season goes along, they start to learn and understand what type of shots you're talking about that fit into each one of those categories. I would guess that the learning process, it has to be pointed out more frequently early on as you're getting started with them. And then as time goes along, they just kind of learn, like, all it takes is a look and, hey man, that was, whatever, that was a bronze medal shot. We got to get something better at that possession. Is that kind of how it goes?
Yeah. It's a lot of discussion. It's a lot of stoppage and talking a little bit. And I'm not huge on talking during practice. But you stop a couple times in the practice and you talk about it. And then you bring them in and you watch a bunch of film. We're big on film too as well here. So just allowing them to see what these shots look like. Because again, when you start talking about these, when first things you say bronze, that's a bronze medal shot. Guys like, what? Like, it was a pull up, and it was a pull up. I was like, well, it's a Rob shot because you were open. I was like, but it's a bronze shot, and the NBA's categorized that as area 31. So 31% of those shots are made. So it's just a constant communication with them when they first get here, and then as we get into August, September. And now we talk to guys about gold medal shots and Rob shots. So they'll bring it up themselves, like, oh, it's a non-Rob shot. They'll yell it out in the middle of practice if a guy shoots a bad shot, like non-Rob. So again, it's fun. It's fun to kind of categorize those things, because I think sometimes coaches just say it's a bad shot and guys don't know what that means. They just hear a coach yell, it's a bad shot. And I tell them, like, we can get a better one. We can get a Rob shot. We can get a gold medal Rob shot. That's a great shot for us. And being less about the shot going in. I think that sometimes as basketball players, we're worried about it going in. So anytime a shot goes in, it's a great shot. Anytime a shot misses, like, well, that wasn't as good as the one that went in. I'm like, no, it's good. That's a good basketball shot. It just didn't go in. That's a bad basketball shot that went in. So I think that these guys, they see it, and they're learning the terminology, and they're learning to accept it because they watch a lot of NBA basketball. And they notice kind of like how the NBA is playing and what the NBA truly stresses around that game, and they see this is kind of how we're going to play too, so they enjoy it.
How much film do you watch with your guys, both up until this point? Obviously, it's been in the preseason, but then how much do you anticipate going in once you've played some games and there's that game film to look at? How much are you sharing in terms of film work with players on a daily/weekly basis?
A lot. We watched a lot of film. We probably spend more time watching film, and it's less like as a team. I think sometimes you don't get a lot of that experience when you're just bringing everybody in one big group. But having small groups come into the office, whether it was my defensive coordinators or offensive coordinators or myself, and just sitting down and watching not only film of what we're let's say we're working on 2-side transition, and we're watching the Celtics, watching the Celtics 2-side transition clips. And them seeing Jason Tatum and those guys do it, and then telling them, like, all right, we focused on that yesterday in practice. Now let's watch your clip of 2-side transition. Now what do you see here? And just letting them kind of see it and talk through it, as opposed to just being in there with the clicker and how I kind of how we grew up where Coach Beeline would just sit there and just talk to us for an hour, and we're just like, I don't know what's going on. My eyes are so heavy. We watch a ton of it, but we try to make sure that guys are engaged. We do a lot of like almost like multiple choice. So we'll have them come in with 5 clips of guys individually, And, with synergy and all these new technology you have now, we can put all these circles and diagrams and have questions pop up on the screen. It's like, all right, so this is the question. So the question came off this ball screen. What's the best option? And then option A is that you see you got to circle the guy in the corner, you got to circle the guy at the dunker, and you got to circle over you. Like, all right, you're supposed to shoot this, you're supposed to swing this to this guy, or you drop it off to the big. Like, what's the right option? And sometimes they forget what they did in the play. And they're like, oh, of course I'm gonna swing it to that guy. And the next thing you know, they shoot a shot and they're like, oh, I didn't know I shot that. I didn't remember that one. So it's just fun. Like I try to get the guys as engaged as possible. Because again, I think film's a huge part about it. And as we start games now, it's going to be even more intricate for us because we have to learn from their last game, but also be able to move on too as well. But if there's a teaching point from the last game of somebody we played with how they guarded us, and then we can like kind of learn from that going to the next game, we got to show guys because the eye in the sky doesn't lie. I think sometimes guys think that it does. That camera, man, it shows it in full speed too. We ain't slowing down those sprints. We talk about Bolton transition running down the floor, and we're like, we showed our guys a scrimmage the other day. We said, now show us the time you bolted. And we say bolts are our sprints down the floor. So bolt, like you're out, you saying bolt, and just we're like, anybody just stop it. We're gonna leave the clicker right here. Somebody come pick the clicker up and show us a stop. And we let like 10 clips go, and no one stopped it. And I was like, yes, because none of them were bolts. But then like so you gotta they see it and they recognize it. It's just sometimes in the live speed and when they're doing those things, they feel like they're moving. And I was the same way, right? As a player, man, as a big man, I'm like, coach, I'm giving you everything I got. And I'm like, man, that's like I'm giving you everything I got. So like I'm probably not giving everything I got. And these guys see that. But it's been huge for us. The film room has been key for us.
I do feel like the ability to learn from film, especially in today's game with, as you said, all the technology compared to even you go back 10 years ago and just how much more cumbersome it was to be able to share and cut up the film and be able to dial it down to certain players and certain actions and all those things. And it's just, to me, it's always just a huge advantage because now like when I watch film with my son or with my daughter, and you're able to just be so much more efficient. And as you said, when the camera just doesn't lie and you can look and they might say, hey, I think I'm running hard, or I thought I ran hard during the game. You can just pull out the clip and look like this. That's not what it looks like. And so it's easy then for them to be shown what it is that you want them to do. And sometimes, again, and you said it, right? Your perception as a player of what you think you saw or what you think happened or what you think was playing hard or running hard, in your mind, you can convince yourself of that. And when there is no film, it's just my word against yours, right? As the player against the coach. And like, I think I was playing hard, and the coach can say, well, I didn't think you were running hard. And neither one of us can prove either way. Now with film and practice and everything that you guys have the capability to do, it's just such a tremendous, tremendous learning tool that wasn't available to players of past generations. And I'm always fascinated by, again, how coaches are utilizing it, doing the small groups and individual stuff that, as you said, sitting in a room with 15 guys all looking at the same film and having the VCR button that, goes back 2 minutes past where you wanted it to, and everybody's just kind of falling asleep while that's going on. I mean, just a completely different world today than the one that you and I participated in back in the day. All right, let's talk about game day for you as a head coach. What's it going to look like day of a game? What do you anticipate your hour by hour schedule to look like on a day when you have a game at night? What's going to get Rob Summers in the right frame of mind to coach a game at night?
Well, first and foremost, if we're at home, I'm taking my kids to school. One good thing that I enjoy about being a head coach, and I enjoyed about being with Coach Gates because he was huge about family too as well. So I've been blessed to work for some head coaches who know what it's like to be a father, and I've heard some horror stories from some guys that like they almost tell their sisters like, tell your family and kids like, we'll see you after season. And I was like, man, I couldn't, I probably wouldn't be in the business anymore. God's blessed me a lot. God is truly like, because if I were to work for one of those guys, I probably wouldn't be coaching right now. You'd be like, yeah, Rob Summers works for Microsoft right now. He's a data analyst or something like that. But I'll work with some good guys. So for me, man, game days, taking my kids at the bus stop, or dropping them off, and then taking my 3-year-old to the daycare that's probably half a mile from my house, and then taking my nice little 25-minute drive in from the west side here in Cleveland into the office, getting in the office and, reading my Bible. I enjoy getting into the Word the first thing in the morning. I just pray because I'm only in this position because of God. I said it every time that I thought about being a head coach, and I was like, man, if I ever become a head coach, it's just because of God. It's not because like I'm the best coach in the world, because there are a lot of phenomenal coaches out there and a lot of guys who deserve their opportunities that sometimes don't get them. But I truly believe that your blessing is going to come for you when it's supposed to come for you. So I always try to read. I always try to get like 10 to 15 minutes to just read through. I'm in the New Testament right now, and I'm a big runner. So, right after that, I'm probably going to get my run in. I do 10 miles a day. So run 10 miles and get out there and just kind of decompress from any type of anxiousness that I would have from that standpoint of anything building up in my mind. It's really helped me with my emotional intelligence, the running piece, to be honest. I think that I don't know if I'd be prepared to be a head coach right now if I didn't run. It just truly like makes everything make sense once I get out there and I'm just running, and whether I'm listening to a podcast or it's just like I'm just running in silence, I'm able to kind of think very, very clearly, and then especially that post run clarity that I have is at a high level. So get done my run probably takes me about an hour and 15 to get my 10 in. Hour 15 if I'm making good pace. If I'm slow that day, it's about an hour 25. I'm going to
rain, snow, or shine. You're out there.
Rain, snow, or shine. I wish I had my videos still. I broke my phone. I left Cleveland, but I used to run. When I was here, and we got hit with crazy snow year 3. And I have one of just like, I have a ski mask on, and I'm like, my whole, like my eyebrows and eyelashes just got like snow all over them. And I'm just like, I'm yelling David Goggins sayings at my phone because I sent it to all our players. But yeah, I ran a day. It was about 50 and rainy today here. I just love it. It just makes me feel like I accomplished something at a high level that most people haven't for that day. So it just gets my mindset in like a mindset of like, I'm just different. I'm a different breed. And it just, again, I love it. It's just really helped me out, and being out there on the road has been awesome. But from there, I don't eat lunch. I eat about one meal a day. I drink a lot of coffee. I eat one meal. I eat dinner every night, and that's about it. So I got to probably get better at my diet. But for some reason, I'm just never really hungry nowadays. I think because my metabolism has been so slow that when I got done playing, I was like 300 pounds, and I was like, wait a second, I can't be a 300 pound 7-foot guy running around. They're gonna be like, who's this massive human being? So probably give me another cup of coffee before I head over into, we'll start film. We'll start our film session up about 1:30. Get in there, watch our special teams, watch some base out of bounds stuff, and then from there head into my shoot around. My shoot arounds aren't like practices. I'm not big on, let's be taped up and let's get after during the shoot around. For me, this is a tune-up of sorts. I want to make sure that we are really, really tight on how we're guarding things, and we're really, really tight on offensively what we're going to be doing. So can I go over our first 3 sets we're going to run for that game with the team, as well as talk about some ball screen coverage stuff, some split screen coverage things as well. And then from there, come back in the office, and just hang out. I like to be around my staff. I love talking with them. I think that just being able to decompress with them is huge for me. I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to continue to keep reading. I've been reading a bunch. I don't want to just get so far into the reading stages of before the game that like I kind of come in groggy, because sometimes when I read too much, I'll just get groggy. But I also don't want to be in a standpoint where I'm too animated. I learned a lot from being a head coach before, at a young age, that you can't question every call. And I was that type of head coach before that it was anytime a whistle blew and it went against me, I immediately had to have something to say about it. And Mike Eads, who was our head of officials when I was in the Mountain East, and Mike Eads is like the head official for SEC now. So Mike Eads is like a big time guy. He was like, Rob, every time you're talking to my referees about a call. So that's our biggest thing for this year too, as well, is every referee, I'm going to tell them good call. I told my staff, I said, every call is gonna be a good call, man. I'm gonna use my challenge late game. I'm gonna use my challenge late game to show them I know what I'm doing. As far as those things standpoint, but I'm gonna be less inclined to be out there just losing my mind. Obviously, with being year one for me, I don't have the same rapport with the referees that some of the guys like Coach Campy and these guys haven't been around the league for a long time. So I figure they're human beings. They're gonna miss some calls. I might build myself a lot of goodwill with them as my years at Cleveland State, continue to climb. Because I'm looking forward to being here for a long time. So I don't want to wear my welcome here early in my career by being on them every day.
Do you have a superstition?
Do I have a superstition? No, I mean, other than I pray before I pray during the national anthem every game. So like when I bow, I just bow my head and I pray and I thank God for everything. And no, but as far as superstition, I will randomly have a couple. Like I have a pair of lucky socks. I do have a pair of lucky socks, so I do have those. Actually, that's crazy you just brought that up because I'm gonna have to whip those out for my first game as a head coach. They have a hole in them right now. That I probably need to get sewn up because I've had them since my first. I've had these socks. This is my first win. They're kind of like so old that I got to wear a pair of socks under them because they're a pair of like a tuxedo. They're a pair of tuxedo.
They're like stirrups. They're like baseball stirrups now.
Yeah, that's what they look like. So I got to wear a pair of actual dress socks under them. I do have a pair of lucky socks. My wife's like, "Why do you have a pair of lucky socks?" Because I don't really believe in luck, but it's still probably the one thing superstition wise that I have because I've won a lot of big games in them. Whenever there's a big game that we got to win, like we won the Horizon League championship in them. We won our first game at James Madison in the tournament. I wore those. Like it was just anytime there's like a game. I've lost some games in them too as well, but I think that every time there's a big game, I think I wear them. So I think they're lucky socks. They're probably not. They're just probably old socks that I need to get rid of. But I'll keep them around for a while.
That qualifies, man. That qualifies as a superstition. I like it. All right. Last question. When this season's over and you look back on it, how are you going to define in your mind whether it was a successful season? What's going to be your definition of success for your season this year, number one at Cleveland State?
Man, that's a great question. Man, that's a really good question. I think for me, what success looks like is just allowing, seeing my team and seeing that they were the best versions of themselves and myself included. Like, this is not just about my guys. Like, I know in year one, there's high expectations for me. It just is what it is. It's not gone are the days where they allow you, year one to be like, well, he's building a program up. It's not it. Like people expect to win and I expect to win too as well. So we're going to go out there and we're going to compete for a Horizon League championship this year. That's our goal. But for me is, can I see my team and my guys, and I see the growth they have? Can I see them grow game by game to where they're playing their best basketball by the end of the year? And can I see growth in myself and my staff to where we're being the best versions of ourselves as a leader, the CEO of this company? Do I see myself growing as the years goes on? Because I say it all the time, I'm not done growing. I'm not done learning. I have a lot more left to learn in my career. And I probably, when I retire, I hope that I don't know everything when I retire. I hope that I'm still looking to learn more. So for me, the best thing that I can experience and the best success I can experience is just enjoying that process of it. Like I want to enjoy this year. I want to enjoy every game. I want to enjoy every up, every down, every win, every loss. Like I just want to enjoy it. And I've been enjoying it so far. Like I've really been enjoying, being back here in Cleveland and being around these guys and my staff. And I don't want to lose that passion and letting that just fall upon, oh man, we won this game, so I'm happy. Oh, we lost this game, I'm sad. Because once the games are done, they're like done, and you're like thinking about the next one. So it's like, yep. I never truly, and I used to do it, and I'm like, man, why do coaches act like this? Is like, as soon as you win it, you're just like, as soon as you win a championship, like I was talking to Joe Mazzulla, and I was like, man, you won an NBA championship. You're talking about next season. I was like, you won an NBA championship. So for me, it's like, if our season ends, and we go to the tournament, and let's say we made Sweet 16 and we make it to the second round and we lose a game and we're sad, am I not going to enjoy it because we felt like we didn't play the best game in that second round into the tournament? Like, I just don't want to be there. I don't want to be that type of guy that just like my mood relies on that. So I just want to enjoy it. I just want to enjoy this process with these guys and continue to get better every day and just smile, man, have fun, be very, very positive, hold them accountable, but be positive and enjoy what God's blessed me with, which is being a head coach here at Cleveland State. And it's an unbelievable feeling.
The journey is the destination. That's what I was thinking about while you were talking, right? That ultimately, again, wins and losses, as you well know, at your level are important. And in a lot of ways is what you're judged on. But what you're talking about is bigger than that. It's about each and every day being with your guys, both your players, your staff, and really taking the time to invest in that and to enjoy every moment that you're going through and being a part of it. And if you take care of that, then usually the wins and losses end up taking care of themselves. But as you were talking, like I said, I just kept thinking to myself, and the journey is the destination. And if you enjoy the journey, then you're going to get out of it what you want to get out of it. And so is everybody that's associated with your program. So Rob, before we finish, I want to give you a chance, share how people can connect with you, get in touch with you, whether you want to share social media, email, website, whatever you feel comfortable with. And then after you do that, I'll jump back in and wrap things up.
Yeah. If anybody wants to get in contact with me, you can get me on any social media, Rob Summers 33. So that's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. It's all the same thing, Rob Summers 33. So if you send me a DM or anything like that, I'll respond to all those. And then also, if you want to email me, I can send anybody anything they want to have from. I'm an open book. I really, we're all stealing from somebody. We're all stealing some type of idea from anybody that's out there. So definitely open book with that. You can email me at r.c.summers75@csuohio.edu. That's my school email, but I respond to emails. I'm not big time. I don't know if at a certain point in time, like I said, again, I'm trying to be at Cleveland State to my son, at least till my son graduates high school. So I got 9 years here. So my son needs to graduate high school. So maybe in 9 years from now, I don't know if I'll be in the NBA or something. 9-10 years from now, I don't be able to respond to emails. But for now, I'll respond to emails. I'll respond to any of those things like that along those lines. But definitely open book. If anybody is around the Cleveland area and wants to come to practice, my practices every practice that we have is open. We go in the mornings, but every practice is open. So we've had a lot of high school coaches. We've had Division II, Division III, D1 assistants that are out recruiting. Anybody that wants to come through is more than welcome to watch us.
Rob, cannot thank you enough for taking the time out of your schedule tonight. Really appreciate it. Wish you nothing but the best of luck in your first season at Cleveland State. I know it's going to be a successful year based on the definition that you gave me, and I'm sure you're going to win a lot of games along the way as well. So thank you for your time tonight. Truly appreciate it. And to everyone out there, thanks for listening, and we will catch you on our next episode. Thanks. Your first impression is everything when applying for a new coaching job. A professional coaching portfolio is the tool that highlights your coaching achievements and philosophies, and most of all, helps separate you and your abilities from the other applicants. The Coaching Portfolio Guide is an instructional membership-based website that helps you develop a personalized portfolio. Each section of the Portfolio Guide provides detailed instructions on how to organize your portfolio in a professional manner. The guide also provides sample documents for each section of your portfolio that you can copy, modify, and add to your personal portfolio. As a Hoopheads Pod listener, you can get your Coaching Portfolio Guide for just $25. Visit coachingportfolioguide.com/hoopheads to learn more.
Thanks for listening to the Hoopheads podcast, presented by Head Start Basketball.